I want to take this opportunity to share actually what Stellar Ace is doing, and at the same time, want to share the journey. So I think the evolution of OOH, in this case, remain relevant today. What do I mean by that? Actually, for OOH, actually they follow where the people is. But I think, like what Rachel mentioned in the morning, with today's the use of technology, actually it allows us to know the person that is watching it. The data that we are using today, the same person doesn't mean the same mindset. Just to give you an example. Today, when I'm here for the conference, my mindset will be different versus the day I wake up at the same time going to the office. Same person, different mindset. But with all this, with the technology we have on hand and the data that we are able to stack together with third-party and proprietary data, we are able to understand our client better. That leads to the key points that we are talking about. What's the market demands? So in short, I'm using the acronym of Stellar Ace Advertising, SAA, speed, agility, and accountability. In today's time and world, I think everyone expects things to be done yesterday. So I think speed is definitely what is required. But with that, plans cannot be fixed. Agility must be allowed. We are allowed to make flexible changes. Just now, the earlier panel did talk about accountability when it comes to dollar and cent. So these remain very relevant to us. This is the time I also will share with everyone, actually, what is the advantage of our home media. You cannot block our home, and you actually is able to capture their attention day after day. Can I have your 2 to 3 minute time just to run through this video?
We've got a very interesting discussion for you now. So before we kick off, firstly, I want to let people know that we, at the end of this panel, we have a Q&A session. So we're inviting questions from the audience. So if you have any questions for anyone on the panel, please go into the app, into this session, and under Q&A, you can submit your question. It will be anonymous, so you're going to put your name against it. And if you want to ask a specific person a question, please put their name against the question so we can direct it correctly. Could I get you quickly to just introduce yourselves before we start? Please, Dipti, I'll come to you first.
Hello, my name's Dipti, and I lead client growth for WPP Media in APAC.
Thank you, Chloe.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chloe from Omnicom Media.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sourik. I head brand for HSBC Singapore.
I'm Tony, MD for Stellar Ace. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jonny. I head up media sales for BroadSign across APAC.
Thank you very much, everyone. So I want to start by understanding how out of home is shifting from broad reach to true relevance. So obviously within, the Singapore community landscape, it's very, very important that we are understanding exactly how we're targeting our consumers. So what does that look like in practice, and what does it mean for brands trying to connect with them? I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Sourik, I'm going to come to you first.
Morning, Lindsay, and a great question to start off. I think fundamentally, the value of scale has not changed. What is changing is the expectation of what that scale drives. For the longest time, out of home was largely about visibility. So you see an ad, you see it many times, and a lot of people see it. But today, that's just the starting point. Brands are under tremendous pressure to demonstrate impact, not just awareness. So every touch point, every impression then becomes a contextually relevant connect with a larger customer journey. And a couple of things are driving this. Firstly, the sheer volume of content that the audience is exposed to. So time poor, attention poor, and they have very little capacity to carry on messages that they see through the day. And secondly, the expectation of boards on what marketing investment drives. So every dollar has to have a tangible outcome. So between relevance and reach, it's 2 to tango. The better the relevance, it automatically multiplies the reach, even if it's within the same audience.
That's very interesting. Chloe, what's your perspectives on that?
I do agree. No, it's not, when we talk about, from broad reach to relevant, it doesn't mean that, there needs to be a trade-off, right? And they could be augmenting or complementary as well. If we look at the evolution of Stellar Ace that Tony took us through, the convergence of technology, audience data, and the experience that we are able to create through that consumer journeys. Yeah, at the end of the day, when we look at the sophistication of planning and how we come together as an ecosystem is to create memorable brand connections with a desired audience. When we look at broad reach to relevance, I would also like, for us to consider what defines relevance. Because as brand, and we talk about it, and we have done a lot of econometric modeling for different clients as well, right? And we do see our home having a role through that full consumer journey. And it has also demonstrated, right? I think what we tried to do as an industry, and I applaud our home for growing in the digital and programmatic space over the year. Globally, our home in 2026 is forecasted to be about 5.1% or more of global media spend, right, as a share. That comes up to about 56 million. Digital at this point is about close to 50% share, and programmatic still have a huge headroom for growth. But within the setup of our home, I would say looking at our portfolio, looking at how Omnicom is looking at audience-led, data-backed, tech-enabled, and outcome-focused, right, in creating that brand connections and experience. I would say relevance is to define in terms of our strategic thinking and approach to the market. So it could be very audience segment-led, it could be time-based, it could be even for long-term, right, in terms of building that brand halo so that you are able to have that targeted relevance reach for a specific campaign tactical objectives, but you are also investing in the long-term brand equity. That equity is still relevant.
That's a very good point, and obviously shares Sourik's perspective when it comes to outcomes. Jonny, from your perspective and where you and BroadSign sit in the industry, obviously, I suppose more from an automation perspective, kind of how do you see kind of this shift to true relevance from what was once a, one-to-many medium?
Yes, we're in a really interesting point, I think, kind of moving away from out-of-home being seen as this like static, kind of antiquated medium. I know, Tony, your slide there showed it, like it's probably one of the oldest mediums, but it's had to evolve to kind of keep with the times. So we've seen that shift from static to now the digitization of screens and the technology that comes alongside that. Which means that out-of-home can now compete with other channels. I think the speed to market, the flexibility was never there with out-of-home before. Long lead times, kind of a real back and forth booking process has meant that people have maybe avoided it. Whereas now with programmatic, out-of-home and automation, you have that flexibility, the speed, the agility to get into market very quickly and to be very reactive. You only have to look at the World Cup at the moment and all of the activity around the World Cup, whether you're activating in those markets, and we've seen lots of advertisers from local markets, advertising in the US, Mexico, and Canada, and being able to do that via a platform and not even having to have contact necessarily with a media owner in those markets, which is really exciting. I think for this market, really exciting to be able to buy into all those different markets without necessarily having to have that contact with a media owner. And then as we move into the automation space, I think that just takes it that next step further as well, because it's not kind of that non-guaranteed. It's you can get in there and it's simplifying and removing the friction out of the out-of-home buying process, so that you can be in the right place at the right time and in front of the right people. I think out-of-home is such a compelling medium, and with AI coming into that as well, that's only going to speed that and reduce the friction even more. So I think it's a really exciting time for out-of-home.
Definitely. I now want to move on and talk about measurement. And Dipti, I'm going to come to you on this one. Obviously, creativity is very exciting, and we all love creativity, especially in the out-of-home space. But when it comes to CMOs, the one question they always have is, well, great, loved it, looked great, but did it actually work? How are we measuring effectiveness? Obviously, when we're trying to kind of bring all these different factors together, what does the measurement look like? What does success look like?
Awesome. I love that question. I spend a lot of time on measurement and out of home and talking to CMOs like yourself. Touchy topic, actually, and I'm going to be a little controversial here, right? The medium of out of home, and we've heard that already, is changing, right? So we are moving from that static, high impact screen to how can it be programmatically enabled? What's the role of data? Is it really pushing the dial on consideration, driving footfall and all of that? And when we speak this language, the language of measurement has to also change. So the obsession around, yes, there's great attention, and therefore what's my share of voice must also move to what's the measurable outcome. Great for visibility, great for attention, and I did own the best billboard on the street, but then did it drive footfalls to store? Did it drive site visits? So those are, I think, the questions that marketers are delving into, but there is a maturity curve that's required. That's because the ecosystem of programmatic is just so different, right? At the end of the day, I say out-of-home screens today are an extension of your mobile phone screens. And therefore, the assessment and measurement should be with the same flavor that you have for your overall programmatic campaigns. And don't put us to test to traditional metrics of measurement when it comes to out-of-home. So that's a mind shift change, and we work with a lot of our clients on that. And essentially, if one is to think about, so what does out-of-home deliver today? There is I would put that in 3 levels, right? So there's obviously that audience intelligence that's now feeding both the selection of screens, as well as, how effective it was, did it derive results for ads? So there's a lot more precision, right? So the guesswork is moving out of the picture. We've got data back points in terms of who saw this screen, how often, et cetera, et cetera. So the precision angle on measurement is great. There's the brand impact, which we spoke of. So I spent X amount of money. Did it deliver some sort of an uplift, awareness, consideration for my brand? And then there's the third level of so what. So what? Were there store visits, etc.? There's also the interesting landscape of programmatic through retargeting capabilities, right? So we know this particular audience was exposed to my out-of-home communication. Can I retarget them across other media touch points like connected TV, display, etc.? So it's getting richer. It's not just a single touch point. It's omni-channel, right? It's almost a central node to your omni-channel plan. And therefore, measurement is no longer like a siloed opportunity when it comes to out-of-home, right? I also speak about the repeat loop of measurement. So don't look at it as, what's the outcome only, but how am I then feeding that back into audience selection, screen selection, omni-channel plans, etc. So more holistic is, I think, the thinking that is required. There is some stuff happening, but I guess you would agree with me, Chloe, there's a lot of shift that's required as well.
Absolutely, that was a great answer. And Tony, I would like to come to you next and get your perspectives on this. Obviously, Stellar Ace own the infrastructure. With digital, programmatic, experiential formats all converging, how does measurement work for you? What does measurement success look like?
I think just now we did mention, I think with the technology and the AI agents that's able to link all these together, it allows us to work beyond just our own media asset. So the connectivity of our OMI channels, linking all these as asset owners, I think this gives us a lot of possibility, and also allow us to work in the favor of the brand exporting more. Then of course, I think in the measurement is the new way that how things evolve. You will have new standards and new measurements. This allows us to collaborate with other assets and bring best value to our client. Our home got this advantage that in the past, until now, is still relevant, that actually you are being seen in the most busy place. But then the question is that, what is the opportunity to know your client? In today's world, we talk about audience-centric data collection. With the technology we have on hand, we are in the era that we can best do this. And then with programmatic, we're able to pump it timely. I think just now Koi did talk about the different die and size requirement by the brands. In the past, especially when it's static, it's 100% buyout. You can't target a specific. But as of now, I think with all this, with the programmatic being there, I think all this is possible. Yeah.
And Sourik, from the brand perspective, like what's measurement look like for you? What's important to you when it comes to understanding? You know, we talked about the fact that yes, it looks great, but I need to understand that it works. What does that look like?
I think Dipti's taken away everything I had to say, but ultimately, media investments are governed by commercial outcomes. So one would measure your reach, your impressions, your share of voice, but that is only one part of the equation. More importantly, what marketers and organizations measure today is the commercial and the business outcome. Second is your brand value. What is it doing to your trust, your relevance? And third, perhaps, is audience, effectiveness, and the ecosystem. Especially for a financial organization like ours, trust is very important. And out-of-home provides or is a medium which has very high trust. So there isn't a single metric by which one would measure what you invest into. It is an amalgamation of a few. But at the end of the day, it has to drive towards an outcome. So impact and outcome is the eventual outcome of media investments.
And how are you tying out-of-home to outcomes? Because and that's probably one of the big challenges of today, isn't it? That out-of-home has traditionally, typically been a standalone channel. So how are we able to bring it together alongside our other channels and look at it in a true omni-channel fashion?
Yeah. So in an omni-channel plan, your different media channels have a different role. Singapore is quite unique because the congestion in the out-of-home space is very little. So when you have very innovative or large format out-of-homes, that is the only time people will put down their phones and look up. And it creates a recall that very few other mediums can deliver because we are plugged in all the time. So out-of-home is very essential, especially when you're driving large campaigns, because for priming, I would say perhaps there is no better medium compared to an out-of-home. So it's a very strong medium with, again, bringing in what Tony said earlier, with the capability now to deliver programmatic creatives. You know what frame of mind a certain person is, and you're reaching out to him or her at a reflective point of time. So huge value, just the beginning, lots more to go.
Thank you. And before we head on to the audience Q&A, I want to look ahead 3 years, and I want to understand kind of what you think the one development will be that will really, like, truly have the biggest impact on the out-of-home industry within Singapore. You know, what are the opportunities that you're seeing that could really kind of like help it kind of like make shape and take its way in kind of true omnichannel advertising? Chloe, I'm going to come to you first for that, please.
Putting the lens on Singapore, right? And I'm also putting a bit of Omnicom lens. I mentioned that global out-home spend for out-home is about 5.1% this year, right? With forecast growth. In Omnicom, because of the portfolio of brands that we have, and to Sourik's point, right? There is a very strong characteristic and value that out-of-home bring to our brand, and across that consumer journey of open aspiration down to proximity and conversion to specific outcomes, right? We are seeing that on year, and Tony has also been part of our journey in that partnership. It's definitely double digit, right? And if we look at the future, I'll say, Singapore leads in terms of technology, automation, in terms of workflow. Even when it comes to agentic marketplace, there is already inroads, and these are in the beta and to be rolled out, right, in the industry. So I'm not even going to talk about agentic as a future, because that is going to be, and in another 3 years' time, that even less than that is going to be a table stake. What I think, I personally, two things: verification. If everything is going to be automated, including the exchange, the marketplace, and all, and it's going to be agentic from the brief connected processes to the outcomes, where is the verification? I think verification, Singapore would lead the space. And two, ESG. I think there's so many conversations around technology, evolutions, AI, and all, but the time is also ticking around ESG. So in another 2 to 3 years' time, I think a bit of focus will come back to quality verifications. What are we doing around sustainability agenda?
That's very interesting, and not what I was expecting you to say. Jonny, I'm going to come to you and ask you the same question, please.
Yeah, I think there's three things for me. I think AI is undoubtedly changing things right now. We ran the first end-to-end agentic out-of-home buy in the Netherlands the other week, so like this becoming a reality. So we'll see where that goes. I think automation is going to play a huge part as well, in terms of there's still a lot of friction to direct out-of-home buys at the moment versus programmatic. So I think automation and being able to buy future bookings guaranteed via a platform into whichever market you want. I think Singapore especially is in a unique position to drive that forward in this market. And then I think DCO as well is huge. I don't think it's been used to its full capabilities yet. I think a lot of the time it gets put in the too hard basket by buyers. I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. There's partners and media owners that are all kind of coming together to make that an easier process. And I think there's some really cool things and really effective things that people can bring to life with DCO, and it fits so well with out of home, kind of that messaging, being in the right place at the right time. So I'd say those are my kind of three things.
Lovely, thank you very much. Tony, same question. We're 3 years ahead of where we are now. What are you seeing as the one big thing that's going to massively impact out of home?
I think I think when it comes to the screen, earlier from what I just showed, from static to digital, these are just the hardware. The technology today gives us a lot of edge to understand the person that is standing in front of the screen. And with the AI, the speed to market is definitely able to support us in that area. With that, actually, the next step, I do see Singapore can play a very good role is to link up the Southeast Asia and even with the asset owner, where the brands can actually, through one channel, blast out to all this with the collaborated with all the asset owner in the region. So I think in the past, we are limited by the technology and the data, but I think we are at the right time with the agentic AI that's able to support all this. I think Singapore is in the right place to lead in this. That's my view.
I totally agree. Singapore is probably the best market for this kind of development. Sourik, what about you? Do you agree with Tony's big vision for 3 years' time?
I do, partly. I think from my perspective, there is one thing which will define, and not for the next 3 years, for the next 30, is innovation. Whether that's in format, whether that's in technology, it's fairly agnostic. When you see something for the first time, you really look up. So that novelty factor in out-of-home always triumphs. So as long as we're able to build, whether through technology or through creative, able to visually build something which you look up to, which gives you a break, which gives you a fresh perspective of mind, I think that'll continue to drive interest in that medium.
Absolutely. And Dipti, to you.
Yep, I kind of agree with everything that's said so far, right? So yes, technology, data, all of that becomes the bedrock for growth in 3 years. There's supply, access, more digitized screens. I think to echo some of the points around DCO, creativity I think will be a game changer because you will have access to more screens, in locations of interest, contextually targeting the right audiences. What will make the difference is what message do you have for them? And is the message then marrying or matching the consumer journey across touch points? Because we also speak of out of home as immersive, as playing a key role in the daily lives of our audiences, right? And that's why messaging becomes so important, because that's how you will really dial up on that contextual experience you want to deliver through out of home. So creatives.
Wonderful, thank you very much. We're now moving on to the audience Q&A, and I've got loads of questions here, so we won't be able to get through all of them, so I'm just going to go through and pick some. So this one is targeted to, I've just lost it, to Tony or Jonny. How do you collect audience data? Do you have your own audience data collection mechanisms, or do you use third-party data providers to find your audiences? Who wants to go first on that one?
For who? For me?
For you or Jonny.
Okay. So maybe I give a shot. So I think for us, just for information, actually Stella is a sister company to SMRT Trains. We are under the SMRT Corporation umbrella. So actually we have our proprietary data, and we have advantage of able to reach out to a lot of crowds that is using the trains as their daily commute option. With that, we layer on third-party data to mesh the insights that we're able to draw, and we create personas of the audience that we want to target. So these are the different data that we mesh together. Today, joining me is my Chief Information Officer too. That's how we actually make it, by combining all these insights and make it proprietary, providing info to my client, the brands. Of course, we also consult the brands, what other specific data would be necessary to make their product to reach out to the right audience. And all this in today's world is all available. So how do we put all these things together? We already have a data team built on this, and with the help of the AI, it just makes things much faster. Yeah.
Brilliant. Jonny, anything to add?
I think that was pretty succinct answer, but yeah, there's two kind of metrics really that are important to us in out of home. There's one which is the currency metric and informing the impression multipliers, which is where some media owners are doing a great job of making that as robust as possible. And then in other markets, they are relying on industry bodies to provide that now, which is great. And then you have a targeting audience as well, and that is generally more kind of mobile based, or so there's different partners that we work with in that space as well.
Thank you very much. I hope that answered your question, whoever answered it. Another question I've got for you. What are the best triggers to use to target my audience, like weather? Does it actually work? What should I not use? Anybody want to go for that one?
I don't mind taking that one as well, if you want.
Go for it.
I feel like I think there is a place for weather. It depends. It's going to be campaign specific as to what triggers are going to be best placed for you at the end of the day. You can even get now as advanced as triggering your campaign to be live in market if the price of oil goes up by a certain percentage or a certain index, or you can use your own first-party data to inform whether, I don't know, sales are low in a certain store, so that's when you support that store with out-of-home advertising. So there's some really cool stuff you can start to do with triggers. So I think it's just about thinking smarter about it. So maybe, yes, the basic stuff is great around weather triggers, pollen triggers. I feel like that's done quite often and still should be used if it's relevant. But I think we can go a lot deeper with it as well, and it's only going to
I think it comes back to also creativity and innovation. You know, when we look at using whatever triggers or API that's plugged in, right? Whether it's a weather UPI or a UV API, if you can use it and find a reason to use it creatively and marrying outdoor as a medium, that creativity in messaging, it could create that impact and that interaction. So no, I strongly believe it's what's the thinking, who's the audience, and what's the brand role when we activate across platform.
Which is the same and true of any activation across any channel, and that's how this applies so well to an omnichannel strategy as well, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Excellent. I think we've got time for one more question. I'm going to choose a data one. Here we go. It feels like out of home doesn't fully sit inside the data ecosystem. What value should first-party data bring, and what does it have in integrating out of home into omnichannel? Who wants to go for that one?
So I can take it. I think, like I mentioned before, there is, of course, data is very important, but at the end of the day, for somebody to take an action, it is emotion, right? So out of home does bring in that emotion and trust factor, which is very important. At the end of the day, we think we take decisions based on data, but most decisions you take through the day is usually driven by emotion. So it continues to play a very important role. Again, like Chloe mentioned earlier, it is a part of a larger omni-channel plan. So digital will drive a much more pointed outcomes towards data. So every channel will have its role, and out-of-home will continue to drive trust and emotion.
Brilliant, thank you very much. We are unfortunately out of time. Anyone whose questions we weren't able to answer, please come and grab any of these lovely people afterwards. I'm sure they'll be able to love to have a conversation with you. I want to say thank you very much to my panelists, Jonny, Tony, Sourik, Chloe, and Dipti. Please give them all a round of applause.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, everybody.